Mark Rudd Larsen here for the 400th episode of the Dreamcatcher podcast. Isn't that amazing? I mean, I never thought I would ever get that far. And if I wipe my brow, it is because it is very, very humid and hot here in Nebraska today. I think the dew point is like 70 and it's almost tropical. So yeah, I'm sweating even inside. Um, got this new pop that I'm trying Bloom Pop, which is pretty good. It's pink lemonade, so kind of appropriate for this hot summer day. So 400, getting back to that. That's quite an accomplishment, especially for myself. For somebody who was so quiet when they were younger, to do all the talking necessary to get to 400 episodes. Um, I don't, I pat myself on the back, but I don't like really people that do that. I mean, it's discipline, dedication, but it's just loving what you do. And I do love doing podcasting. And I can guarantee you that I never thought I would because it entailed talking, and it entailed talking to a lot of people around the world. And it kind of intimidated me. And, but I had people in my corner, Crystal. Thank you. Actually, everybody who was on the 150th episode of Dreamcatcher Podcast has helped me some way to get this podcast up and going and continuing. Carter, Caleb, Crystal, my wife Cheryl, lots of C's. so, but they all, I mean, Cheryl has filled in on the days where either the guest wasn't able to do it or, we didn't have a guest and she was just so kind and loving to fill in. And it's not her favorite thing to do, and she will, if she was here right now, she would definitely agree with that. But I am blessed. I'm blessed. I mean, and it looks like I'm sitting in a room with the sun going up, coming up, or going down. Actually, I'm in my basement, where it's actually halfway cool, and sitting in my grandparents' old rocking chair, one that I rocked a lot in when I was a kid. Read a book on Franklin Delano Roosevelt when I was in college in this chair, and now here I am in this chair, which is a really comfy chair, rocking chair, doing my 400th Dreamcatcher podcast, and it's surreal. It is just unbelievable, and I wanna thank all the guests. I wanna thank all the people that have showed up, around the world to help me with this, get this accomplishment. Because it's not me. I just maybe do the background and get it all set up, but it's the guest. If it weren't for the guest, I wouldn't have a podcast. I mean, I could do, ones by myself like I'm doing here, but, it's much more, I believe, much more fun and interesting if you have a guest, and, I have to thank, there's Facebook groups that have had, this one, which is awesome. Um, they like to collaborate. But I found, pretty much podcasters like to collaborate. Podcasters definitely like to help each other out. I don't really see very, if any, competition. I think we all want to make the world a better place. I think we're all, I mean, there are a few that are on the other side, which you gotta have that, it balances out. But I would think that most people I've had on the podcast, which a lot of them have been podcasters themselves, um, have wanted to help people out, like myself. That's why I started Dreamcatcher. I started it to help people. For one thing, to realize that what they were going through, they weren't alone, that there was other ones that had gone through and are going through the same thing they had, that, no matter how old you are, I'm in my 60s, um, keep going. I wanna show you the way that you don't have to follow the guidelines of aging, which is really outdated anyway. Um, don't think about your age. I said it more times than not. Don't think about your age. Yeah, if you're not feeling well, depending on whatever your age is, you're not gonna feel like your age. You might feel a lot older. But if you are still able to do casting's not definitely not physical. Very little of it, maybe move my hands a little bit, but all it is talking and getting it out to the world. And that I want to thank technology. Sometimes I get really upset with technology, but if it weren't the technology, I wouldn't be able to do this either. I'm sitting with my MacBook Pro here in my grandparents' chair, like I said, having a bomb bloom and pop, uh, and just chilling and enjoying this cool basement. Um, because I would guess it's probably with the heat index, it's probably into the hundreds. And one thing we do appreciate good weather when we get it. Today's not one of them, so I wish we had a little more breeze, and that's not very common to say in Nebraska. But I'm inside. I've got electricity. I've got a comfortable chair. I got a drink. Just got done from having an awesome day over in a town named Kearney. Met one lady that had just been on the podcast with her shop, which is always an awesome shop. Met her lady that helps, and the lady that helps, her dad was on the podcast from Bolus a little while back. And I think I'm gonna have her dad, who is 96, and her on a podcast in the future. And that's why I love doing this, because I get to connect with so many people because of this. And if I had been saying, "You're too old to start something, Mark," let the young people do it. It's kind of what they do anyway. They're on their computers and phone all the time anyway. That would be, would think I could hear that. But I'm probably as much on this as they are, which is an issue, but I'm not going there today. Um, but just, that dream, the dream that I always talk about on these with guests, the dream that you have right now, the ones watching this podcast episode. Have you done your dream? Have you truly done your dream? Or have you thought you don't have enough money, not enough time, not enough, whatever it is, to do that? Because there is where the dream ends. And there will never, ever come a time, more than likely, that the dream will be easy to accomplish. And if I had kept everything that's gone with Cheryl and I, my wife and I, over the last 5 to 10 years, I wouldn't be doing anything. I would be just probably over in a corner groveling, because it's been a lot. But instead of doing that, I have I've used it for I don't know how I for sure I did it, but I used that negativity, easy for me to say, and let it grow me. And I know I've said in past podcasts that I see negativity in that thing as strength training now, but it took a while to get there. People were like, "How do you get there?" It's like trial and tribulation. You just do it, non-negotiable. Um, there's a whole bunch of ways you do it, but you just do it day in and day out. And I can guarantee you some days is easier than others, because some days it is really tough to do a podcast episode. Go and work out at the gym. Just walk. You don't even have to go to the gym. Do whatever you need to do to keep yourself active. Keep yourself active in your later years, so you're able to get the dreams, even if you worked a full life, so you can get that dream that when you did retire. Some people are of that mindset, my generation and older. That is what you did. You worked until whatever, 65, right in that area. And then you kind of had a few years of retirement. So if that's the path you've been on, then make sure you keep yourself physically fit. So you have lots of time. None of us are guaranteed any time, but potentially have a lot of time to do your dreams, because the world is waiting for you. It is waiting, even if your dream has been put off in part, for a lot of years. The universe is still waiting for you. They're still waiting for your voice. They're still waiting for your actions. They're still waiting for your positivity, your motivation. They're waiting for you. You're still here. And everybody says, if you woke up this morning, God's still not done with you. And I have the same mindset. God's not done with you if you're still here. If you're not here, then you probably accomplished everything that you were supposed to in this lifetime. And but you got to keep active. And I know sometimes that is really, really tough when you have illnesses. But Cheryl, who has had cancer and numerous other things, she's still cleaning houses. She cleaned houses when she had cancer, advanced cancer. And that is the tenacity, I guess that's the word I'm looking for, that it takes to do what you need to do. And the thing is, when you get to the other side, you don't regret it. You're glad that you kept going, because it's like, hey, I did that. And hey, I did this with the podcast. Never it was on my list of things to ever do. In fact, it wasn't that long ago that I had never even, heard of a podcast. And you just never know where life's going to take you. But this has been quite the journey, and I look forward to more of this journey. Like I've said many times, I would love to do more in person around the world, Europe, Africa, Australia, New Zealand, wherever, South America, um, even more in the United States, Canada, and all that. Wherever in the world, I would love to meet the people in person and 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 embrace the culture, see what it's like, because I think that would be so cool. Give you a new perspective on the world too. And yeah, so I am blessed. I am very blessed, and I think we don't. I've talked about this a little bit on the 4th of July one, but I don't think we realize how blessed we are in this country. I guess it was with the World Cup, how the people are looking at the United States in a whole new light, and how the media their media had basically lied about the United States. But I still think we take what we have in the United States for granted day in and day out. And right now, we have the data centers and the cameras that are like flock, getting everybody worked up. And I'm not so sure because God works in mysterious ways. Isn't it interesting how all this all came up really fast? Building data centers on every spare inch of ground there is, it seems like. But and then the flock cameras are going up like, they're, but what if God was doing this on purpose? A common enemy brings people together. And social media, the computer, electronics have kind of pulled us all apart so we can kind of be in our own world and we don't have to have connections. And then I think that's really bad because I think that's why there's so much mental illness, one of the reasons. But I think God's bringing us together to make connections. And I could be wrong, but he is very mysterious on the way he gets things done. Let me tell you, I've been on the receiving end of that, and it just makes me smile. But I just thought I told my wife, I was like, "This is really strange that all of this is coming about really quickly, but it's getting people to these meetings. It's getting people active in the community, getting people to know their neighbors." I could see him doing that. I could definitely see him doing that. And it also everybody's worked up about it, but, we live in a country that's the way it works. Issues come up, we debate them, goes if nothing else, it keeps going through the courts, and eventually, if it really needs to, goes to the Supreme Court. They make the ruling, then we live with it. It's worked really well for over 250 years, and, so you don't wanna get worked up. I have to tell myself that too, but everything is working the way it's supposed to in this country, and that's why it's the best country there is because there is a process, and it's easy to get worked up, especially with the media, and that's one reason why I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news. I will watch programs that are upbeat. That's why I want to keep this podcast as positive as possible because there are so much negativity in the world. Everybody thinks it's the end of the world, end of the United States, end of whatever. It's not. It is not. We have been through so many things in the 250 years this country's been around and it's been much less than we're going through much less now than some of the past times. And no, we're good. We're really good. And the fact that I can get this out, my voice sitting in my basement in my grandparents' rocking chair, out to the world, that's pretty amazing. I could drop this as soon as I get done recording it, little editing and stuff. I can have this podcast out in an hour at the longest, and I that goes to the world. What time in history have we had the gift, the wherewithal to reach that many people that quickly? And that's the big blessing. It brings us together. I know what's going on in Adelaide. I know what's going on in New Zealand. I know what's going on in certain parts of um, Africa. I know what parts of Portugal, Spain, Italy. Um, this is a great tool, and I'm just glad that I was able to do a podcast on this. And today, I mean, I have run into so many people that are going to do the podcast coming up, and I got to talk to people. Had a really awesome lunch. Um, yeah, it was a great lunch. Tried to do this podcast out of Cotton Mill, which is a lake that's by Kearney, and it just wasn't hitting. I wasn't for one thing, I was being too negative, and I don't ever want to put a podcast out as negative. There might be negative, a little bit influences, but I want to keep it positive. There's plenty of negativity on TV, and we need to clean our TV up too. That is one thing. Cheryl and I have Roku, and It's good. You can find just about everything you want there. But the commercials they put on with the continuous wrestling and fighting and all that other stuff. What if you had kids? What if you didn't want to have kids seeing that? You know, um, and they told me I could go in my settings and stuff. Sure. Um, there's still too many violent, kind of disrespectful, disgusting commercials on there that don't belong there. And actually, if the shows are that way, I don't believe they belong in there either. Even if there is an audience, I think there's a thing that we really had in the 70s going back. And yeah, I mean, I don't want women to have to go back to the way they were, but they wouldn't have to, because I think men know that they can help as much as women in the house. You know, I mean, men can have babies, but the rest, we can do it. We can do the laundry, we can wash dishes, we can cook. But we need to go back to some of the goals, the mindsets, the things that brought kids up in a world that was safe. And right now, and they also have these things where you can kind of almost borders on gambling on Roku, and they may have other places. I'm not just picking on Roku. And kids don't need to see that. Kids need to stay innocent, and we don't seem to take that important. That's so important, so important. Keep the kids innocent. They will be exposed to the world when they are able to be exposed to the world. Even if we don't need to rush it. Keep the kids as kids. But make sure you're teaching the kids, because you're not doing them a service if you aren't teaching them how to be able to live in a world that's not innocent. And we just seem to like whatever goes. I see kids that have piercings, tattoos, and I don't really know how that ever is a thing. And tattoos, I wouldn't really want one, and my body probably wouldn't either, because my body attacks anything that my body just attacks stuff. So probably wouldn't work. But tattoos are their art. I wouldn't, even if I could, I probably wouldn't want one. Um, I know piercing, yeah, maybe. Um, but where's the wholesome? I mean, why don't we dress up first? Why don't we have meals together on Sunday or another day? If you're, I think we need to get back to going to church. I know that God has a big influence, as I said on this podcast, and maybe this is Him trying to get people to go back to church. And I think there is a resurrection on people going back to, I don't know if that's the right word, going back to church. There's church can be, what is it, where two people gather. There's so many different variations on that I think church is coming back. I think there's a resurgence. I think maybe that's the word I want to use. And but I just raise your kids so they can be happy, stable, mentally stable adults that will contribute to society, not ones that'll go out and destroy things in society, spray paint things, I mean, wreck things, not appreciate things what they have. Have manners. When your kids don't have manners, and you may think that doesn't really matter in today's world, it does. It still does. People judge you, and people probably shouldn't judge you, but they do. If your child has, doesn't do things the way they should, and you don't have to have money to have manners. And I don't want to get preachy on that, but I think we need to, whether it's a one parent family or two parents, whatever it is. Um, I think we need to do a better job. And I know there's some people that are single parents that are doing an awesome job. Um, but we do need to do better on raising our kids so they'll be happy and know kind of what is expected in society and to contribute to society, whether it's doing their own podcast, coming up with their own business. But I think we also need to raise kids as more entrepreneurial rather than just going to school. I personally, I wouldn't recommend school. After you get your high school diploma, unless you have something specific. I talked to a lady earlier today that's going to become a nurse. You definitely have to go to school for that. But in general, I wouldn't probably recommend my child go to college. I just think college, the connections are good, the education, yeah. I've really used very little of what I learned in college. I have a business degree and I have a geography degree, and I think I've said in past podcasts. But it's the connections that I made that has been the best. That part's great. Um, but society is always evolving, and it will continue. But raise your children, keep them, teach them manners. dress them as nicely as you can. Clothes I know are expensive. Very much know they're expensive. And in fact, living is expensive, extremely expensive. But do the best you can raising your kids, because I've seen parents with very little money have kids that look immaculate. They look like they have come from a wealthy family, and it's because they have two parents that are dedicated to giving those children the best life they can. So so yeah, I mean, 400. I had to get some of that stuff out again. Um, I look forward to the next 400. If you would be willing or wanting to be a podcast guest, my Dreamcatcher podcast guest, reach out. Always looking for people around the world. Like I said, maybe I'll come visit wherever you're at. Maybe I'll come visit you in person. That's my dream and goal. Travel more. I haven't traveled near much lately because we haven't been able to, but we'll be traveling again. And I would go back. I don't know if I'd go back to Italy right now, but I would go back to Italy. I don't know. They got the volcano going around Sicily, but I pray for those people. But there's so many great places in the country and the world, and there's a lot of places I haven't been in the United States, and I'm ready to travel. Right now, I'm ready to travel somewhere where it's cooler. Alaska sounds actually like it would be a good plan. So yeah. But on that, I'm going to let you go. This is the end of the 400th episode. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for if you subscribed. Thank you for on my YouTube channel. Thank you. If not, just please give it a click and subscribe. I'm always open to new ways of doing this. Reach out if you have suggestions, comment suggestions, and we'll go from there. And we'll do this together. So on that, take care. Bye.